and they're our people that we support. And I can go on and on. Health sector, we are supporting health sector. Challenges with SHA, which are being worked on, but we are supporting those sectors, and including even agriculture and providing fertilizer subsidy. I can go on and on. So there are services that Kenyans receive, but we can do better. So it should not be used as an excuse. On 24-hour economy, I agree with you. We need to have 24-hour economy in major towns of the country. But that can only be realized if we guarantee certain primary enablers, one of which is energy. People cannot do business if we have unreliable energy. Reliability of energy is a challenge where we're doing rationing. So we must guarantee that, and that is why National Infrastructure Fund became very important, because we didn't have enough resources to ensure that we get the 10,000 at least megawatts of electricity that we are aspiring for. On corruption in government, I know this is a cancer. I know this is something we must fight. There's public theft of public funds. But again, we also cannot just say that this administration is doing much worse, or there's more corruption in this administration. In my view, if you ask me, and it may be controversial, but I want to say it anyway, with all the sensitivity and alertness that Kenyans now have, and the propaganda from the opposition against this government, if there was corruption, it would be all over, including the media that we have, which has become very vocal in communicating. Although one or two sometimes veers off and does their own things or do their own things. But with all this publicity, there would be a lot of exposure on corruption. And now we are in the 4th year of this administration. I don't think there is any administration that I can think of, from Kibaki's administration to Uhuru's administration, and even Moi's administration, although Moi's administration started earlier, which has survived 2 years without a scandal. This government, this administration has survived it. And it is because we came up with a policy of zero-fault audit. And you can see even audit queries are going down. Just sample, just take the audit queries, compare what we have today to what we used to have previously. They have come down, and we must thank these accounting officers for doing a good job. I want the accounting officers, we can clap for the accounting officers who are in the room. I want you to continue even doing better so that we eliminate corruption completely. But we are happy to say that we are almost to election without a major scandal coming up in this administration. And yes, Kibaki took government and brought VAT, although the figures you mentioned that he collected around 2.2 trillion is not correct. I don't think Kibaki, during Kibaki's government, we even collected 1 trillion. But it was a big jump from what was collected previously. 2.2 trillion we just started collecting the other day. But it was a big jump. And it was a big jump because of the reforms. But we must understand that we are also operating in a slightly different environment. I mentioned that our economy has moved more informal and digital. There was less digital business and space in Kibaki's government. Today, there is a lot of business has moved digital. And when you attempt to go and tax in that space, there's a lot of resistance. But we are working towards making sure that we don't lose the momentum in that space. Another question? Yeah, go ahead.
That's a typical. He's religious for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Bwana CS na high table. My name is Daniel Murubu. I'm participating in this meeting as an interested party, as a taxpayer. And of course, I'm not rising to ask any question. I would want clarity in this booklet, page 20, in terms of representation of from the private sector and maybe civil society. I'd want that confirmed that this year we'll have this kind of representation, because for as many years I've been here, I don't think this has ever been complied with. Then I look at page 2027 on what is actually called court awards. I want what will actually be presented here in November. I would want a rationalization of the current pending bills, which reflects as court awards. Now, Bwana CS, my take is very simple. It's actually to confirm to you that you have undertaken rigorous policy reforms that actually inform better budgeting. And I want to give an example, because all these have been subjected for mandatory public participation all over Kenya, and personally I was able to attend where I come from, and sometimes in Nairobi. I look at GOE, government-owned enterprises. This is perfect, but I find you are doing piecemeal, removal of the existing board members. I'd want to move very fast. You clean all the existing boards, so as you're able to recruit afresh within maybe the qualification you desire. You also presented cryptocurrency regulations. This was subjected for public participation, and we're able to give our inputs that will support. The presentation I've had today morning, I didn't hear anything about internal auditors. Yet all too soon, you presented amendment to PFM Act on the functioning of internal auditors. And it was very categorical that you'd want to give them operational independence, number one. Number two, you'd also want to capacitate, give them finances to be able to do serious internal auditing. So all the presentation you've done, I did hear the aspect of internal auditors, and these are actually very good, very effective professionals who actually used in budget tracking. Then, under PPP, yesterday in Nevada, handling amendment to the PP Act. 2 days, yesterday and on Monday. And we support because this is forward planning in terms of how we engage on the implementation of public-private partnership projects. Those are another area you have subjected for public participation, and I support. I don't want to belabor on Sovereign Wealth Fund. That is supposed to give us long-term benefit in terms of saving money for future use and also for future generation. In terms of infrastructure fund, I was here. On April 27, I appeared before the Finance Committee, and we supported the same. We would want to see immediate takeoff, because when PS Kipto, you give a figure of 2 or 4 billion from Safaricom and 106 from Kenya Pipeline. I support. We would want to see this fund starting to give Kenyans the benefit to serve.
Thank you.
Finally, Bwana CS, I want to humbly request as a Safaricom shareholder, for the remainder 15% shares for the Kenya government, maybe this can be ring-fenced in the next 10 years. Thank you very much.
First of all, Morogo, I want to congratulate you, not because you praised me, but I want to also praise you. You have been consistently attending public participation engagement on public finance management. And I think that kind of interest is rare. I want to congratulate you for that and commend you for what you have been able to do. I will address a few and maybe ask Piers and DG Mwenda to come in for others that maybe I will not have mentioned. And especially to clarify on page 2027 that you talked about. On GOE, we are presently recruiting. We have started the process. The selection panel is in place, and they have advertised for a number of GOEs, and already we have received interest from Kenyans. Amazing. I'm told over 15,000 Kenyans have applied to be board members in about 30-something GOEs, something that is very interesting. So the process of shortlisting is going on, and we will comply with the law and the acts without any violation, to make sure that our GOEs are well run, because that was the idea, with commercial mindset. Internal auditors, yes, there are a lot of changes that we are making to make internal audit work better and to give value for money and to help improve our systems, because we saw a clear gap and loophole where internal audit was compromised. So apart from that operationalized efficiency, independence, we are also looking at the efficiency of internal audit, which includes proper funding and also includes that we protect them from being victimized. And that's why I've already communicated that now going forward, internal auditors who carry out their work diligently will not be victimized. I've heard you and listened to your request on keeping 15% of Safaricom shares that is remaining ring-fenced. I think your fear is that the government should not lose control completely of Safaricom. But again, confidence you should have is that even the divestiture that we carried out, a number of institutions which have purchased shares in Safaricom are actually public institutions. Our pension funds. So there's largely the company is largely still owned by our people, and again the kind of the legal framework we have protects investors very well. This is our company. It is a Kenyan company. It is the most profitable in the region. It's the largest in the region, and it is even going to do much better. So, PS, if there is anything that I left out, together with Mwenda, you could take.
Just to confirm, CS, that we have the internal auditors bill. It's a draft form which is now going through public participation. Through this bill, there's intention to set up the Institute of Internal Auditors, and also to protect auditors from executive interference. There's also need to regulate the professional practice of internal auditors, just like along the line of ISPAC. So I think you are welcome. Just to also agree with you, CS, that Mburu has been a consistent member and a participant, and his quality of interventions has even improved. So let's appreciate him also. Thank you.
CS, if I can respond to there are two issues on the court awards, and there was another one on the private sector participation. I think on the court awards, we will actually include, if you look at the guidelines and the guidelines that have been circulated today on page 44, the sector reports should include the court awards analysis. So that tabulation should be provided and it should be part of what then is looked into when the sectors report back. So there will be that reporting. And then on the private sector, you will agree with me that the sectors are diverse and different. So what we have done, rather than standardizing for all the sectors, we urge the sectors, when they convene, under the convener and the co-convener, to map the critical actors in the private sector, and please invite them, because the guidelines require private sector participation. But then it will be difficult to prescribe for each sector a standardized approach of identifying those private sector players. So we urge the sectors to please ensure private sector are mapped, private sector players, and then included in those sector hearings. But we also invite your feedback as sectors or even citizens on how best we can integrate private sector in this process. We will take into account your feedback. Thank you.
If you allow me, I take only one more. Maybe PS, you could take more once I leave, if you can spare a few more minutes. But I would have wished we get a lady now. A lady. Yes, yes, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Engineer Jepchirchir, the Gen Z Senator Nairobi. And my question goes to you, CS and PS. The bottom-up agenda is about empowering the common mwananchi. In the financial year 2027-2028 budget guidelines, what specific allocation will be ring-fenced to ensure youth and SMEs in Nairobi and Kenya at large benefit first from government contracts? While EGP is a great idea, what are you going to do about AGPO? As we know, we have a 65-year-old who has a youth company, a non-disabled person who has a disability company, and they are being awarded those contracts, but they are not the rightful owners of those certificates. So what are you going to do to ensure you cap this ujanja ya Kenyans?
Can I take another one more? One more. There's another lady here towards the end. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Standing in all the existing protocols, I really don't have a question, but an appreciation for this government for taking the giant strides and the quantum leaps in ensuring that our nation is stabilized economically. We want to congratulate you for the Sovereign Wealth Fund, the Infrastructure Fund, and all the other amendments that you have been able to do in your current government. I'm coming from an organization called MMV Associates CLG. It is an advocacy organization, and in the same time, it is an humanitarian organization for the elderly and for the people who fought for the freedom of this nation. So we have a lot, but we have put it in a memorandum. We would love to kindly, when the time comes, we present to you with our representatives from all across.
What's your name?
Emma Cassis.
Okay. So.
Thank you so much, sir.
So one last one. Now it can be a gentleman. I think I've done some justice to gender, isn't it? Oh, but there's a lady, okay.
Yeah, all protocol observed. My name is Lucy Maina. I work in the State Department for Public Health and Professional Standards. Just an input into budgeting and the budget for Kenya is that looking at what we prioritize, I'd like to suggest that we also think about human capital. And what I want to say is that as much as we want to have a productive nation, I think in terms of wellness, we have not really invested enough in terms of preventive health and wellness. And what do I want to say is that looking at the infrastructure, we are doing well with roads. But what about the environment in terms of sewage, waste management? Looking at youth, for example, we want a productive youth, but we have data showing us that, for example, young men 14 to 19 years, 43% of them are thin for their age. So just thinking through maybe their nutrition, thinking about physical activity. So I think when I was growing up, we had programs. We had a lot of programs for social capital, which somehow have fizzled out. I think I just want to propose to the government to think through the human capital, the social capital, and some of the programs that we can do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Not in any order, I will start with this, the human capital investment. First, I would ask Lucy that we have just started the sector working groups. And I think a lot of proposals, those proposals can be made to the relevant sector, because that is why we are here. Those are the kind of ideas that we need, so that when we are budgeting, it's aligned to priority areas that probably have been ignored, like what you have just stated, where we are not thinking about the health and wellness of our people. We need to put in more resources there. I know we are putting quite a bit in this universal health coverage, but there are other areas of health consideration that really need to be looked into, and I agree. But in terms of human capital in totality, including education, also needs to be addressed, and this budget is going to address it. One of the areas that I want to point out is, you know, if you look at last year's budget, this year's budget that we are rolling out now has more investment in education. But above all, we have even come up with a more innovative way of financing our higher education, the university education, but we have also included the colleges, the TVETs, but we have also included KMTC, which previously were not getting the funding from Higher Education Loans Board. And we are coming up with a system where those Kenyans who cannot afford paying, or those who want to be supported in paying school fees for, will be supported almost wholly, fully. Yeah, that is what the president communicated yesterday. And I saw some people saying that we are reversing. There is nothing we are reversing. We are moving. The system that we had for funding, the model of funding, is obviously better than what we had previously, but has still not cured the problem of those who cannot afford paying fees. Especially the example the president gave yesterday, that a child from a poor family is invited to go and do medicine, but cannot, simply because the cost of medicine is prohibitive compared to other courses. So they'll end up in courses that they didn't desire just because of lack of funding. That is what we want to cure, because that would perpetuate the culture of poverty, that if you are poor, you remain poor permanently. That is not the country or the society we want to live in. Some of us today would not be sitting here if that was the society we were brought up in. Now, on the Jepchirchir, because I think Emma Kasisi just had commendations and said that we have done a few things right, and she's happy about it. There are very few people who would tell governments like that, especially from advocacy. So I also want to thank you for being honest in your assessment. But if there is an area where you think we can do better, there is nothing wrong also with pointing it out. On the issue of allocating resources or ring-fencing resources to support the better, actually the whole budget is anchored on better principles, the 5 pillars. So I expect the sector working groups to keep to mind and align their budgets to better principle, and that is what I spoke to here. And I even spelled out how they should go about it. So any proposal that is not in line with the better principle will not be included. But you asked specifically resources going to some specific categories. Again, I'm sure you listened to my speech. I said your budget must be alive to issues of children, must be alive to issues of PWDs, and must be alive to women issues, because these have been marginalized group. But something I needed to have added, that your budget should speak to inclusivity. We have seen cases where some MDAs, some state departments, their budgets are concentrated in one area. That is not a budget I will take. I would guarantee you this. This is how this country has had inequitable development over the years. There is no reason why you should concentrate money in Homa Bay and leave Tana River, for example, or leave Wajir. We will make sure that the budget is balanced. It captures the whole country. We are all taxpayers in different ways. Even people who say that we are the ones who feed you, if we were not there, you would not make business. So you are feeding us, we are buying from you. We are giving you money and you are giving us food. So you cannot appear like it is about benevolence. If you are giving us for free, it would be a different story. But if I'm giving you food and you're paying me, both of us there is mutual benefit there. So we are growing together as a country. We must observe that. So I think, I don't know whether PS there's something you want to add. And then you will allow me to leave after that.
I think on the issue of ACPO, the rules are clear. So if I think we will ask our team to also look at that, because they are clear. You only become eligible to ACPO if you meet the requirements. So if there are people using ACPO, then that should be reported and we can take action. So we ask Kenyans, if you know people who are using ACPO when they don't qualify, let us know and we will take appropriate action. maybe DG, you can also highlight a bit on the areas that has allocation that would be of interest to Chepchirchir.
Thank you, CS and PS. If you look at the sector allocations and what we have set aside for the thematic area for equity, poverty reduction, women and youth empowerment, we have a number of programs that are directly, and that's besides, because also education budget really largely goes to support the youth, but also there is the National Youth Opportunity Towards Achievement, popularly known as NYOTA, and we would encourage the youth to follow up with the ministry on the opportunities here. Youth Empowerment Support Program is another one. We have, of course, National Youth Service, the Kenya Jobs, Economic Transformation, which is popularly known as KICC, which is being scaled up. There is youth empowerment centers, which are being rolled out in the, I think, at constituency level. There is the Youth Enterprise Development Fund, which is also targeting the youth. The Youth Employment and Enterprise, Youth Employment and Enterprise, the popularly known as UWEZO Fund. So there are a number of projects within the budget that are specifically and trying to tackle that problem that the CS mentioned about. About youth employment and how to enhance the opportunities, including building the skills of required under the law to conduct this process of sector is a role of cabinet and parliament. And therefore, it is important that